West Beach and the Indiana Dunes National Park, exciting hiking and biking trails like the Diana of the Dunes Dare or the BMX track, and local treasures and exciting festivals, you'll know you're in more than just a bedroom community. From veterans of foreign wars to hometown heroes, our diversity is our strength, and we forge our future with the same flame as our steel. Oh, there's a place in the Midwest, and it's calling you home. The best part of Portage is what's next. The best part of Portage is you. There's more for you in Indiana. There's a place in the Midwest, 50 miles southeast of Chicago, nestled near the coast of Lake Michigan. It's a place driven by what's coming next, a place where industry is the lifeblood of its community, and its pulse is gritted with sand and steel, fire and smoke. It's a city building its future together, one business, one family, and one home at a time. This is a place for makers, doers, and dreamers. It's where the global marketplace meets hometown values, where Americana isn't just a tradition, it's a way of life. Here, your experience makes the difference. With access to railroads, major waterways, and 8 different highways, this is a place in motion, sending goods, services, and ideas not just across the state, but across the world. And when the work ends, the day's just beginning. With beaches like West Beach and the Indiana Dunes National Park, exciting hiking and biking trails like the Diana of the Dunes Dare or the BMX track, and local treasures and exciting festivals, you'll know you're in more than just a bedroom community. From veterans of foreign wars to hometown heroes, our diversity is our strength, and we forge our future with the same flame as our steel. Oh, there's a place in the Midwest, and it's calling you home. The best part of Portage is what's next. The best part of Portage is you. There's more for you in Indiana. There's a place in the Midwest, 50 miles southeast of Chicago, nestled near the coast of Lake Michigan. It's a place driven by what's coming next, a place where industry is the lifeblood of its community, and its pulse is gritted with sand and steel, fire and smoke. It's a city building its future together, one business, one family, and one home at a time. This is a place for makers, doers, and dreamers. It's where the global marketplace meets hometown values, where Americana isn't just a tradition, it's a way of life. Here, your experience makes the difference. With access to railroads, major waterways, and 8 different highways, this is a place in motion, sending goods, services, and ideas not just across the state, but across the world. And when the work ends, the day's just beginning. With beaches like West Beach and the Indiana Dunes National Park, exciting hiking and biking trails like the Diana of the Dunes Dare or the BMX track, and local treasures and exciting festivals, you'll know you're in more than just a bedroom community. From veterans of foreign wars to hometown heroes, our diversity is our strength, and we forge our future with the same flame as our steel. Oh, there's a place in the Midwest, and it's calling you home. The best part of Portage is what's next. The best part of Portage is you. There's more for you in Indiana. There's a place in the Midwest, 50 miles southeast of Chicago, nestled near the coast of Lake Michigan. It's a place driven by what's coming next, a place where industry is the lifeblood of its community, and its pulse is gritted with sand and steel, fire and smoke.
I will call to order the City of Portage Planning Commission for today, Monday, February 3rd, if you would stand and say the pledge. Mr. Cherry, could you call roll?
Victor Mendoza, Melissa Weidenbach, Brent Wright,
Here.
Carissa Childers,
Here.
Sam LaBoy, Deb Ekdahl,
Here.
Denise Little,
Here.
Victoria Vasquez,
Here.
Alonzo,
Here.
If everybody has had the opportunity to look at the minutes and there are no additions or corrections, may I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion. May I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Any reports of officers or staff?
no reports.
We're pretty short here today on attendance. Do we want to wait another month? Or do we want to go ahead and vote tonight for officers?
I would say that because we're a little bit low, why don't we wait? Do we need a
Okay.
motion on that, or no? Okay.
May I have a motion to postpone until the next meeting of election of officers and appointment of executive secretary and legal counsel?
I make a motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Could you call our first order of business?
First order of business, public hearing, P-02-24, RCJJ Development LLC, care of Charles Paddock, 14400 Lakeshore Drive, Cedar Lake, Indiana, seeking primary plat approval for Sandy Trails subdivision, approximately 54 acres plus or minus, consisting of 153 lots to construct single-family attached dwelling units south of 5400 block of US Highway 6.
Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you for being here, and thank you for having me. Unfortunately, is it showing on your guys' monitors by chance? No? I don't know why it's not bringing it up. The plat up. Perfect.
You might have to tell your computer to, let's see,
It looks like we might be in Greece.
where is, this is a PC, right?
Yes.
You had to change the display settings, I think. Sorry. This is the main one. Let's try this. Let's unplug this. But they may not see it on yours now.
But they're all on PDF, the same, the
Okay, that's two, so let's see. Extend these displays. There we go.
Perfect.
All right.
Keep changes.
Yeah, let's just keep it for now.
Perfect. Thank you. Always glad to have someone with IT in the house. Thank you. So here's a copy of the primary plat showing the project headed in the northerly direction. There is 153 paired villa lots on this property. We have received several variances through the BZA sanitary and stormwater boards to allow for the arrangement that you see here. The project, you'll notice on the western side of the project, has a large detention basin. I believe it's somewhere between 50 to 70% larger than what the ordinance calls for, based on previous conversations with the city on some drainage issues that kind of happen in the area. So our intent is to capture a significant amount of stormwater and flow it through the detention basin, and I believe it discharges at the southwest corner of the property, where there will be a release structure. You'll see there's, again, large structure in the northwest, all the way down on the westerly border, and then kind of hugs the little turn at the south here. I believe that's generally been shown in the few iterations that we've had of this project. So all the stormwater or rain in this project generally kind of flows south and west. We are putting rear yard drains as the city's ordinance was changed to. So we will be capturing all rainfall in this property and directing it to those ponds. That will be a flat bottom pond, as was given a waiver to. And we will be doing some wetlands mitigation through there. And we'll be keeping approximately a 2-acre wooded wetland in the southeast corner of the property, as is, and I'll kind of cite into it. So there's a grove of trees there, and that is a wetland, so we are not touching that property. We are going to keep that as is. We are not seeking any tree credits for that particular cluster of trees there. The entrance will be on off of Route 6, the main entrance, where we will have a entrance sign which will look like this, as we've submitted, all pending INDOT approval. I believe the staff report had showed several contingencies, 3 contingencies, all of which were amenable to and agree to. So the entrance and sign as approved by INDOT, the sanitary layout as approved by IDEM, and tree locations throughout the subdivision as approved by staff. There will be a large amount of trees planted on this property. We plan to work with staff on choosing the appropriate variety of trees so as not to destroy any public infrastructure that will be installed, and to satisfy the landscaping requirements and the aesthetics of the subdivision. We will have 2 styles of paired villas available in this property. So we'll have a ranch paired villa that will look similar to this rendering here. And then we will have a 2-story option as shown here. This will be a maintenance-free subdivision, as we agreed to in the BZA. So there will be, the HOA will be tasked with maintaining the entirety of the subdivision as far as lawn mowing and snow removal. The tenants, or not tenants, it's restricted from rental units, so there will be no tenants. The owners of the properties will be required to allow the HOA entrance into the backyards to allow for the lawn care of the properties. There will be fences, hence why the HOA is requiring all owners to allow access to the backyards. We have heard from the builder of this project that a lot of new families would like fences, so we did require that, or did ask for that through the BZA, also to allow for animals to, or dogs and cats and such, to be contained within their backyard, as well as any young kids. The HOA will be responsible for maintenance of any community areas as well. So communal lots will be maintained by the HOA. The cluster boxes, which we expect will be installed or be required by the post office, similarly, HOA maintained. And then we added into the HOA requirements as well that concrete driveways, well, the driveways will be required based on the city's standards, and we put on the plat that concrete driveways are required. We've restricted pools in the subdivision, so there will be no pools allowed, no permanent pools allowed in the subdivision, again, to allow for the HOA to maintain the properties. And what was the last one? Sorry, the HOA document's a little thick, so I do have to reference it. Grass cutting removal. The fencing will be also restricted to two types, PVC, white PVC fencing, or black wrought iron to remain consistent throughout the subdivision and to provide for aesthetic, proper aesthetics throughout the subdivision that we're looking for. Rental restrictions. And an anti-monotony clause. So this cannot have the same colored house adjacent to or across from each other, again, to break it up and to provide for a better aesthetic throughout the subdivision. Outside of that, I think this is been designed to the city's standards, and we're seeking primary plat approval tonight. And we'll entertain questions or public comment.
Could you also expand on the contingencies that we're asking for tonight that are not completed?
The three contingencies were that, and I'll have to pull out the staff report.
NDOT approval for Route 6, IDEM construction permit for sanitary, and staff approving tree location.
Correct. And type.
Location and type.
Those before we open for questions that might answer some of the questions.
With NDOT, we've had at least a request in to meet with them. We've also we have another project in Porter County right now that we've been waiting for at least 6 months on response from them. Our engineer has told us that they would require a primary plat to be able to review before they give us any definite answer, so that's based on the contingency there. I believe the IDEM contingency is fairly standard. Once it's been approved on that contingency, IDEM will review and give their approval or disapproval, and we will make changes to the sanitary based on their comments. We don't expect any snags with either IDEM or NDOT. And then as far as the trees go, the ordinance calls for a tree in each lot and one for every 40 feet in the easement, but it does not specify exactly which tree type. Understanding, working with staff through the process currently, there's some concern that certain tree types have larger root systems that could enter into sanitary, stormwater, or water lines and destroy them and/or destroy sidewalks, curbs, and driveways. So we want to make sure that We're putting the appropriate trees that the city would like to see, because ultimately they'll be tasked with maintaining anything within the right-of-way. And similarly, Indiana American Water does not want to see their water lines destroyed by any trees or plantings. So we'll work with staff to make sure that we're planting the trees the city wants in the areas that they want them. But the trees that are required, will be put in.
Okay, thank you. I will now open the public hearing. Is there anybody here to speak for the petitioner? Is there anybody here to speak for the petitioner? Is there anybody here to speak for the petitioner? Is there anybody here to speak against the petitioner? There should only be one paper up there today.
Okay. Hello, Plan Commission members. There, okay? We good? Okay. We meet again to consider the same development that was denied as a planned unit development last year. A year later, tweak the details and submit again. New administration, possibly new commission members, change the details slightly and try again. It worked this time for the Board of Zoning Appeals. All the requested variances were granted with a few contingencies. But do you know the average size of a motel room is 325 square feet? A luxury motel room is 400 to 600 square feet. The average size of a studio apartment is 400 to 600 square feet. The average size of a single-wide mobile home is 780 to 1440 square feet. But this contractor is planning to build 302 identical dwelling units, each with 550 square feet living area. Visualize this proposed development: 302 small mobile homes joined in pairs minus the wheels. Think of this not only as long-term residential homes, but more as entry-level housing. An interim place to sleep while deciding where you really would like to live. There's not enough room in one of these units to raise a family. There's hardly enough room for a newlywed couple, let alone a pet. And I seriously doubt that a retired senior couple would downsize so dramatically to fit into 550 square feet. Yes, this area is zoned M1 multifamily residential. But here's an essential point that has been conveniently disregarded. The full title of the M1 classification is M1 Low Density Multifamily Residential. What part of this proposed 302 unit development meets the definition of low density? And that's your definition, M1 low density. Progress dictates that agricultural land within the boundaries of Portage will eventually be developed. And let's be real, this contractor acquired the land as a developmental investment. But please reduce the number of units in this development. Increase the size of individual residences to the zoning standard of 800 square feet. The contractor received his variance to reduce the size, but do the BZA variances dictate the decisions of the Plan Commission? Make this a complement to the other developments in Portage, not a future eyesore. Density is the key to all other factors that produce a long-term quality development. For example, reduce the density and you reduce the traffic burdens. And I know I have talked in the past about traffic, but let's talk about this again. Most traffic will use the Route 6 access point, and this was confirmed by the contractor at the last BZA meeting. If allowed to develop at the planned density, the traffic volume on Route 6 at the entrance to the development will increase by approximately 1,000 vehicles per day. That's 151 units times 2 residences per unit, times 2 vehicles average per residence, and each of them going in and out each day. That's 1,208 trips. And of that 1,208, probably only 20 or more vehicles per day will go to the 712 West entrance, leaving the remaining 1,000 headed to Route 6. And that does not take into consideration delivery trucks, maintenance vehicles, or visitors. I checked last week with NDOT, and they advised that there is no record of an application to access Route 6, for the access to Route 6. A request to recheck that initial finding was submitted, and we await that response. NDOT may well deny or recommend alternate plans. But right now, according to the email that I received from NDOT last week, they have not been contacted. There will be a significant impact of this increased traffic volume on County Roads 712 and 700 North. Has this been considered? What is the county position on this development? Is review needed? And are there any county recommendations? This contractor paints a rosy picture of an idyllic development. Quality construction, attractive photographs of proposed buildings, maintenance-free HOA living, affordable housing. But truth be told, understand that he bought a piece of land knowing the city's standards, but with every intention of subverting the standards in the name of profit. He has spent several years now striving to receive approval to develop this potential eyesore. We've been at this since 2021. He's even claimed that the size of the property and access via Route 6 and 712 West are hardship conditions, so that's why he wanted all the variances. But he knew this when he bought the property. When he left the city council meeting a year ago after denial of the PUD request, he announced to all that he would build to the city standards, yet a year later he returns with the same basic plan. Why? Plan Commission members, please give serious consideration to the long-term impact this dense entry-level housing project will have on the city of Portage. As proposed, this will not become a stable growth-driven community. This will not become a complement to Portage. This will be a new community of mobile homes joined in pairs, minus the wheels, next door to another mobile home community. Many of the adjacent property owners see no value in this development as proposed. This will have a serious negative impact on the quality of life and property values of the adjacent properties. Thank you, and I trust you will consider your mandate and responsibility to safeguard the future of the Portage community. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody here to speak against the petitioner?
Okay, I live at 5419 US Highway 6, so that's right in front of the proposed development. And I have had questions that I had been asking for years that never got answered. And I wanted to know, there's a lot that they own next to our house, and I wanted to know what they were going to do with the lot. And I complained that they never maintained it, so they did start mowing the lawn, because my husband used to mow it, for those of you that are new members. So they started to mow it, you know, and they did that part, but that question was never answered. So, and then also, where am I on this? I mean, your retention pond is south? Okay,
On the west side, so here at the very top, the
Okay,
north is US.
We'd like to, I don't mean to interrupt you, but we really would like to get,
all the questions?
and
Okay.
Dina, if you can help us.
The
When-
top of that picture is north.
Okay,
Top of that picture should be Route 6.
okay, oh, okay.
Dina, do you know where their house is at? Okay, so maybe you can pull up on the GIS. Right. Okay. Go ahead and we'll have all your
Okay, so that was
questions.
the second question, because I'm not understanding his diagram as it pertains to my, my property, and also the lot, what was proposed for that. And that lot, by the way, has the drainage issues. It floods all the time whenever there's a lot of rainfall. So what was going to be done about that? So those are the questions I wanted answered for some time, and I've never gotten them answered. Now, I'm not opposed to the development, but again, the density of it, like the points my neighbor made, the so many in such a small area is super crowded to me. It's going to be very problematic, all the problems that she mentioned, you know, I agree with her. So that's what I wanted answered today.
And I think we'll get that for you today.
Please do. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, just. Is there anybody here to speak against the petitioner? Is there anybody here to speak against the petitioner? Is there anybody here to speak against the petitioner? If not, I close the public hearing. Do you know where she lives?
She lives in the,
With the light roof?
Is it this one?
I pulled it up on the GIS. If you come up to the north and far west, that touches, she's the house just to the right of that, so just the east side by 6.
Right here, oh, right there.
In between the commercial lots.
Correct.
Okay. Well, that lot is currently shown on the plans as simply an outlot. It's not large enough to, and I'll zoom in it further. It's not large enough to meet any zoning standards. It is zoned commercial. We have no plans for it at this time other than having it maintained. The access, you can see that it really can't access, it can only generally possibly be used to have lawn mowing crews access the pond, depending on where they park. We don't imagine they'll access that way, but it's possible. I think what would probably more than likely happen is sometime in the future, one of the adjacent property owners inquires about purchasing it to add on to their properties, and I'll just zoom in here, which we would generally be amenable to. There's no plans right now for it. It's being shown as just an outlot. It will probably, it looks like it will drain to the pond that will be right here. So that should alleviate some of the drainage issues. And other than being mowed, that's it for that. Unless someone has any other questions regarding that item.
Before we go back to the board, I think the lots she's talking about, she can't get an answer to, are your commercial lots.
Okay.
So, and that, I don't think that you have an answer for them yet.
Well, so I did answer this one adjacent to her property. The one to the east is also shown as an outlot C, or C2 zoning. It's commercial as well. At this time, we have no current plans for it. We generally do not do commercial developments. I think what would be contemplated is, again, similar to Outlot D on the west here. If one of the adjacent property owners inquires about purchasing it, we would be amenable to selling. But at this time, it's going to sit as an outlot. In order to build anything on it, it would need to be split from the remaining outlot, because we would, the subdivision would keep the drive entrance, where the entrance sign would also be located, which means anyone in the future looking to do something with that lot would have to come here for an additional plat amendment / one lot subdivision, and then ultimately a final plat. So the city would be heavily involved with any steps on what's taking place with that lot. But at this time, that lot will be, just like Outlot D, simply maintained, mowed, and just kind of generally be open space.
Okay. Now I'll open to questions from the commission.
Should I answer the first petitioner's questions too? Yes. Correct. Yes. So the least square footage any of the homes would have is 900 square feet. That's the ranch homes. So the 500 square feet is incorrect. We did ask for a variance from the first floor living space for the two-story houses, because the two-story houses' ground floor living space would not conform to the city standards at that time, which we did get a variance for. But the overall living space of that house would be greater than 500 for sure, and would be greater than 900. The reason for that being is that the garage that would be located on the ground floor is not considered living space, so it would, it just doesn't count in the calculations. And we have a general kind of sketch of what the paired villa would look like. So it would be a 50, the overall footprint of the house would be 50 by 52. So the first floor of either of those would have the garage on it, and then if it's a two-story, it would have that same footprint, but just above. As far as, they're certainly not going to be mobile homes. These are going to be stick-built houses. They're going to be slabs, built on slabs, because this property here is majority sand. There will be no basements due to the soil types of this property. So everything will be stick-built slab houses. I will say, as far as the comment of not enough room to live or grow in, I myself live in a duplex, 3-bedroom, 2-bath. I've been there for 7 years. It's, me, my wife, and our 3 cats, and our soon-to-be son in May. It's been large enough for the last 7 years. And certainly in my subdivision, and I live in Lowell, not in Portage, there are a lot of seniors who live around me. That's generally who live in the attached villas that I live by. And that's certainly what we expect in this subdivision is seniors who have downsized and/or younger families who can't afford a 4-bedroom, 3-bath, $500,000 house at this time. The Route 6 traffic and the NDOT, we have not made NDOT application simply because we're waiting on the primary plat that will be made, and as a contingency of the primary plat. And then as far as Route 6 traffic, it is a 5-lane road, and we do have 2 other entrances or exits to this subdivision, which I did not mention in this, but at least in other presentations, it has been mentioned there's an entrance exit to the south here, and then I believe Lennar Homes has been in front of the Plan Commission, and we have plans, or we are connecting to their Kingman Drive, I think it's called, Kingman. So that road will be going through as well. So there'll be 3 entrances, exits, but we do expect most people to use the Route 6 entrance exit.
Okay, thank you for those explanations. I will now open to questions from the commission.
Did you, and unless I missed it, did you discuss what the cost of these homes would be for your ranches and the rest of the development?
We did not tonight. Previously, we have discussed it somewhere between the starting price point of 200 to 225. That was when we presented about a year ago. With the increase in cost, it's probably closer to 225, 250 starting price. And that could go up as we won't be building this year. If we're granted primary plat approval this year or tonight, we will begin installing the infrastructure. That will take the majority of this year. We'll probably look to final plat late in the year, which means home building could begin next year. So the likelihood of the price of the house increasing is great, given that we'll be building homes next year.
So let me see if I understood you correctly. You're thinking about $225,000 to $250,000 for roughly a 550 square foot home?
900.
A 900 square foot home?
Plus.
And you're thinking it could go up next year if the construction costs increase for 900 square feet?
Correct. I mean, it could come down, but that's not very likely.
And that's on a slab, a
Correct.
floating slab versus a block foundation or even you can't build a basement, correct?
Correct. We cannot build a basement on this
Okay,
property.
so it's a floating slab, stick-built, aluminum siding?
Likely vinyl or hardy board,
Vinyl, okay. For 900 square feet,
minimum.
minimum. Okay. Do you have a maximum of what the homes would be?
Just what is allowed by the.
In the square footage?
Ordinance. No, I do not off the top of my head right now.
Okay. But obviously, if they were larger, then the price tag would go up as well.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
All I
It's
was
just-
saying is even when you build a slab, you still have to get down to virgin soil, get to where you get your standard footing in with your number 4 rebar, then you got to build the foundation wall, and in portage, you got to pull out all the black dirt, bring in all the fresh sand. So there's a lot of expense when you go to build a slab that people don't think about, but you're offsetting that expense by eliminating the drain tile, the steel I-beams, and the floor system, but then the concrete costs, so it's a little cheaper, but it's not much, like people think.
But it's still a floating slab. Mhm. Versus the block, versus the foundation.
It still has the foundation. But you're always going to have the foundation walls. The floor, like either is built on top of the foundation, a cliff edge, and then the slab's poured on that, so it's sitting in the foundation. So it's just not like a good floor, like a crawl space.
Right. Right. I'm familiar.
So
No,
it's
I was
not
just,
like in California or in Texas, you can do monolithic floors, you can't do that here. That would be like not very good foundation, essentially.
thanks for sharing.
One question is about the drainage issues that they're experiencing right now. How can you guarantee that that will be taken care of? Will that be through our engineer?
Well, certainly your engineering firm has reviewed these plans and will continue to review the as-built as it's built. I think actually 2 of your engineering firms have reviewed the plans preliminarily under Christopher Burke when we kind of laid out the westerly detention pond, and then again with Great Lakes Engineering. Certainly with Bauer, we've gone out there and have put in additional pipes. This subdivision falls under the new stormwater ordinance that was recently approved sometime last year. So rear yard drains will be servicing all of the lots. So this will comply to the city's new and improved stormwater standards.
So Christopher Burke approved the size of the pond in 2023, and we further reviewed upon that with the new stormwater standards, and we're okay with,
Because we're tighter now.
yes.
Our standards are tighter than they were a year or 2 years ago.
And this is.
They still meet those standards, yes.
Okay.
The new standards.
For the anti-monotony, when we were here before, they had not several, but 2 or 3 different exterior elevations for the 2-story, and we really hadn't seen the ranch. So we're really looking for more than just a color. We're looking more for, do you have a different elevation?
That's all I've been provided at this time by our home builder. But again, they have an internal anti-monotony that they use as well to break up their projects, so that way they're not putting the exact same homes next to each other.
But we're looking for different elevations versus just colors.
Yeah, and unfortunately, this is what I have at this time.
So what can you offer us? Can we make a contingent on different elevations? I know you have different elevations for the 2-story, but I do not know about the ranch.
Yeah, I think at this time, we're just looking to use the anti-monotony that we have and the internal controls that our builders have.
Okay, so would you check and see if we can do that and have more?
I could, but I would like to, we are here for primary plat, and this is something we've taken upon ourselves. We would like to take it upon ourselves to do, if there are other peaks and gables that our builder does, to allow them that freedom to put that in, to break up the subdivision.
When do you think you'll be removing your contingencies?
As soon as we can, again, based on response from NDOT, IDEM, and us working with the city to decide tree types and locations. I'd love to get with Tom and Dina and relevant staff that they see fit to hammer it out.
The thing that scares me is that once you have approval for the primary plat, you can start moving dirt. And 2 of your contingencies are on things where they're going to say where your dirt needs to be. Would you be willing to wait to move dirt until you can get those contingencies removed?
Talking with the owners of the company, we don't expect to start moving dirt until minimally May, simply because of ground conditions and scheduling of excavators. I would.
So we could still make that no moving dirt until those contingencies are done.
I believe.
Hey, Alonzo, can you expand on that as far as recommendations?
So as far as our memo went, it was recommended that the construction or moving dirt should not be allowed until both the IDEM sanitary permit as well as the NDOT construction on 2.6 is approved, as well as seen and reviewed by the city. That's what we outlined, and I think that's how it should be.
Okay.
Any other questions from the board?
So from 2022, looking at the staff report, the houses at that time proposed were 165. And as of current, it's 153, which was a decrease of 12 lots. Knowing that the residents surrounding this property have a concern about density, do you feel that that has been a substantial enough decrease to eliminate their concerns?
We do. We feel that that's a substantial decrease and complies with, again, the ability to keep this a maintenance-free subdivision that will hold its value over time.
Thank you.
Any other questions? If no other questions, may I have a motion?
I make a motion for an unfavorable recommendation at this time until all contingencies have been removed and it can be readdressed.
This isn't a recommendation, this is primary plat. It's either approve or don't approve here.
I make a motion to do not approve at this time.
Second.
Before we go, we need to outline what statutory requirements the plan is not sufficiently reaching.
I think at this time, it's the contingencies with IDOT, sanitary sewer.
Well, on at least one of those, they can't apply until they have primary plat. So we can't put them in the catch-22 circle. And I believe that was NDOT on Route 6 for the highway?
Correct, and I think that's the same for IDEM.
You mentioned both, yes.
And for as IDEM normally, once we have primary plat, that's when they apply? I don't know, that's why I'm asking.
Normally, it's what he said, so I'm willing to agree.
So I think the only contingent that they can fix before is the placement of the trees with the staff. Otherwise, they need the primary plat to be able to move on with the state agencies to get their permitting.
Usually sanitary doesn't bank on the primary plat either.
So it's the sanitary that, I understand about NDOT, that they have to have a plan, but for the sanitary. And it would be really no different than,
Well, no, that's not the case.
They have their approval from our sanitary.
All approvals and any,
All our sanitary board said, you're approved contingent upon getting the IDEM permit, which is the same for every project.
okay, let me check.
Go ahead. I believe Mr. Hannon's letter was in the packet.
I'm looking for the one with, they have full approval from the stormwater board?
Correct.
Okay, because this has a January 29th, they did not.
Is that the most recent staff report? We had,
January 29th.
that was not in my staff recommendations of the 3 issues.
where does it saying it's not approved? I'm sorry, Denise.
Stormwater board approves with some minor variances. Allowable peak flow from the subdivision, manhole locations, and easement widths.
Can you speak to these?
I wasn't a part of the stormwater board meeting, John was. I know these have to do with the HOA, manholes within the right-of-way, and that sort of thing. But regardless, these variances were approved, so.
From John Hannon,
The variances were approved based on Sandy Trails covenants and restrictive language that requires the HOA to maintain all portions of the storm sewer system that are not accessible from the public right-of-way.
My understanding is that we've, regardless, other than the 2 making applications, which we can't do until we get a primary plat, we've met all of the requirements of the subdivision control ordinance. So if we're being denied, I would like to know what sections of the subdivision control ordinance we're not meeting.
okay, at the bottom, the very last sentence from John Hannon says, "It is recommended that construction not begin until after the IDEM sanitary sewer permit has been issued."
Exactly what he said earlier, it's the recommendation not to move dirt until they have those 2.
Yes.
Correct. That's not the same as denying primary plat. It could be a contingent, but that's not the reason to deny.
Were you denying until everything was done?
I'm denying until all the contingencies have been removed.
we can't do that. We have to have a primary plat to make the application to
I-
meet the contingencies
And IDEM and IDOT.
in dot.
So the only true contingency left is staff and the developer agreeing on what tree where.
We have a second. We have a motion and a second. Would you like to amend your motion?
I withdraw my motion.
Does the second agree?
Yes.
The floor is clear.
May I have a motion?
I make a motion to approve, subject to any dirt being moved to IDEM and NDOT approval from the state, and everything working out with the city engineers.
And the tree
Potentially add to your motion with that before dirt, if that's the board's.
Before dirt, like before they move dirt,
But do you want that to include that the trees have been decided between them and staff before that happens, so it's tied up before May? I'm
not-
just bringing it up
not-
as a,
It's just placement and species, we can handle that pretty quick.
as well as placement and species of trees at the same time. Sorry.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Mr. Cherry, could you call roll?
Brent Wright,
Yes.
Carissa Childers,
Yes.
Dev Ekdahl,
Yes.
Denise Little. Yes. Victoria Vasquez,
Yes?
Alonso Garcia.
Yes.
And if you could check on those other exterior variances,
Elevations,
elevations,
yes.
because we would really like to see them. And they did offer them.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they had, I mean, we saw them.
We saw them.
But when, when we come back here with
Right.
secondary and everything, yeah, we could look at those, but I
And
know
you
they
said
have
you'd
them.
work with us anyway to get this done. So,
Correct.
Right.
Like I said, I will check with the builders and see what elevations they can provide.
any other business to come before the board? If not, may I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn?
Second?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.